Hey guys, welcome back for another Trekyards podcast. And of course, I'm joined as always by Commander Cockings.
Hi
And who are we?
guys.
Who are we have joining us today? There, Samuel.
Oh, you all know him. But if you
If you don't,
don't,
shame on you.
yes. Thomas Marrone from Cryptic. Hi. Star Trek Online. Fun game. We just introduced you. Now I want to talk some fun Trek. And one thing that we love about Star Trek Online is you keep doing new things. And we've talked about that in depth. But we've talked about this in particular. But now you're on the show, now you're on the podcast, let's talk about it a bit more. Agents of Yesterday, the TOS expansion. First of all, say hi. And then we'll get into it.
Hi everyone. It's great to be here again.
So yeah, just yesterday. How cool is that?
It's really cool. It's something that I don't know if I ever would have believed that we would have done quite the way we did it. A whole TOS themed expansion with
awesome.
a bunch of TOS themed ships. I got to model the Daedalus, which was really cool. I never thought I always wanted that ship in STO, but I could never think of a good excuse to get it in the game since the game takes place in the 25th century. But now we did it, and it's really exciting.
I've got to give a slight disclaimer. I haven't played it yet because I'm waiting for time because I feel like I want to go into it. So no spoilers, please. Sorry. And Stuart,
Okay,
you've
sure.
played. How much have you played, Stuart?
I've played a few missions now.
Okay.
I'm still new into it, so.
What did you think, Stuart, when you heard about it? I mean,
Well, when I heard about it, I thought it was a fantastic thing for you guys to do for the 50th anniversary of Star Trek, to bring TOS into Star Trek Online. Like I already had the Connie and stuff from when I bought the game way back, the special edition or whatever.
Yeah.
I already had the TOS uniform, so I was already set up for TOS. But to all the additional stuff that you guys put into it, I thought was fantastic, and it was a great way to bring people that might not have played Star Trek Online into it that are TOS fans. So I think. I think it was when I heard that you were doing it, I couldn't believe it at first, but I was so excited. So, and it has paid off. I'm very happy with it so far.
Awesome.
yeah, I remember seeing the logo and then you put the trailer out and it was just like, oh, this is so cool. And I think you posted, check out in the middle of trailers the Kelvin timeline ships. I'm like, oh shit, really? That as well. And then I saw a Let's Play from some guy with Jay, and it's like, oh, the Jay's in there too. What is going on? There's so much you've added. It just kept growing in scope and things. Spoiler, Stuart. I mean, I don't know if you've seen that yet.
Well, yeah, I have. And it was a great way to bookend things. You know, you got the TOS stuff, the very beginning of Trek, and then you got the JJ stuff added as well. So it was both fandoms, like new and old, were there as well. So I think that was great that you guys did that. Now, how long was that in the planning? Like, was that planned for like 2 years, 3 years beforehand?
It was. I think obviously we kind of knew that the 50th anniversary was coming. We definitely had. I think everything was kind of on the drawing board at least a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. I'm not. So I'm a ship artist for the game, so I'm kind of low on the totem pole in terms of like long-term planning. I don't really get exposed to that too much, but I feel like a year and a half is kind of when we were starting to figure out, okay, we need to do something big for the 50th anniversary. It should probably be an expansion, and if it's a 50th anniversary of the original series, maybe that's the direction we can go. Even as far back as missions that we put out 6 or 7 months ago, we started like laying these little breadcrumbs that were going to lead into the temporal events around Agents of Yesterday. So it's no secret that when we started doing the Iconian War stuff, that one of the people we included were the Krenim because of all their timeline bullshit. Excuse me, I don't know if I can. Okay.
It's a podcast. You do whatever you want.
Okay. Yeah. But so that was a big, like, having the Krenim, using the Krenim was a really deliberate choice because we knew it was going to lead into all this timeline stuff for Agents of Yesterday.
My L-cars even went to red alert when you said bullshit. So it's ready. No, warning, guys.
I go in phases from playing the game, so I knew the Krenim was in it, but I don't know how they're in it. I'm that just hearing that straight away makes me excited. Like, how on earth are they in it? Because there's only one ship, and then you obviously there's less unique ships in your world because obviously people can buy them. So if you can buy a Krenim time ship, they're not obviously a one-off anywhere. But yeah, it's such a great idea. I mean, I maintain that you guys have done the most effort to a 50th anniversary out there. I mean, a book is great, but and the new movie, which is very good, but it's not really the anniversary special. Whereas you guys genuinely made this anniversary. Like if you're a gamer like sort of we are, and when I get around to playing it, that will be feeling as if it's the anniversary. I mean, Walter Koenig's in it and other people. It's like this is a true testament to the original 50th, and because you guys have enhanced the game and just completely. Again, I've played it from literally day -10, day -20. The improvements is unreal. So such an incredible thing to put that much work in. I mean, you guys are a free to play game. And to just go, like I said, I didn't know JJ stuff was in it. That's another go above and beyond. You could have stayed at 10 missions. You could have stayed at a costume pack, and you already had that sort of stuff available. But you kept going above and beyond. Although now I've mentioned it, when did the JJ stuff? When was that planned to come in? Because that's a very, as I'm sure we all know here, that's a very controversial part of the Trek community. Like, when was that decided to be put in? And...
Sure. I mean, it's controversial, but it's also passionately loved by some. So we knew that, and it's Star Trek. I mean, as much as some people don't like it, it's still Star Trek. It still says Star Trek on the label, and to be honest, like I wasn't a huge fan of the JJ Enterprise, but then I modeled it, and so I sort of I really grew to appreciate it. But I think that it's. It's Star Trek. It's part of the heritage. It's part of the 50th, right? But Beyond came out this year, and so we wanted to honor that. We wanted to give people who wanted it. Star Trek Online is kind of it's a Star Trek theme park, really, if you think about it. Like, you have very directed, like, here's the DS9 ride, and here's the Voyager ride, and now we have a TOS ride, right? And so we wanted to give people their JJ timeline ride if they wanted to go on that. So there is actually a mission. I don't want to spoil it too much, but there is a mission in Agents of Yesterday where you go to the JJ timeline, and there's stuff that's there's kind of the big bad guys are kind of interfering with things over in the JJ timeline as well. So you cross through universes and help them out, and then come back. And so we have a story when we do things like release we call it the Kelvin timeline. That's the official CBS anointed term for it. But when we release the Kelvin timeline lockbox, we also wanted to make sure that when you're playing through the story of the game, it makes sense that this stuff is now available, right? We don't want to just throw it out there, and pretty much all of our lockbox releases are like that, where we'll tie it into what's going on in the story of the game at the time, and
we haven't really touched on it yet on this podcast, but another great gift you guys gave us for the 50th was the addition of the consoles, the Xbox One and the PS4 edition of Star Trek Online, which again, with the TOS and the Kelvin stuff, brought in more players because not everybody's a PC gamer.
Right.
And it's a lot easier to just throw on your console and just go instead of installing and making sure you got the right video cards and all that. So I think that was great. But it's funny that you mentioned when you got a new appreciation for the JJ Prize after you modeled the thing, because I'm a physical model builder, and it's the same with me. I used to hate the Ambassador class until I built the model. Now it's one of my favorite ships. To be able to hold it and see the different angles, I can totally appreciate that. So. Yeah, I thought I'd mention that. So
yeah, sure. Well, I mean, you start to understand as you're going through the same process that the person who originally designed it went through while you're building it. You're kind of starting to understand how all the pieces fit together and what the details mean. And it's just kind of it's almost like learning a language or something. I don't know how to explain it, but
it's like with the mission briefing show we do. The saddest show, which is all the information we present. It's all scripted. It's great, but the mission briefing is we take these set images that we both either I've done renders, you found some amazing pictures somewhere on the internet, you found them, and we dissect it like no fans ever do. To put half an hour to dedicate it, you got to make interesting content to look at every detail and try and dissect and think and make reasons and questions and not know anything about it, which means you can make these guesses. You really get a new appreciation for ships because. If you're looking at the TV show, you really aren't concentrating as much as you think you are, and what we do is really dissect it. So, I mean, there's so many times we've seen a detail. It's like, we did the Discovery. We talked about it for an hour and like 20 minutes, and then right near the end, you say, "There's that blue line." It's like, "Oh my God, there's glowy blue bits." No, they've changed it now, but I mean, it's like that. Suddenly, you like the design a whole lot more, and by the end of that, we the appreciation comes.
Right.
You know, the JJ Prize, I haven't done too much of it in 3D. I'm looking forward to doing the full episodes on it. You know, now I literally talked to you about this when I was starting to plan some of that stuff, because, you know, now that's been committed in the Star Trek Online timeline, you had to have the sizes for it to fit. And I asked you literally the day it came out, and you got back to me straight away, what is the length? Because I'm fine with it being supersized because you can have a reason. But I'm not fine for them to keep changing the size based on shots. I know they did it in another Trek, but for people like us to try and make a continuity and a sense of it. So when they finally set a size, I can now work with that. And so I'm looking forward to the show, because now we know the size, which means we can retcon any of the shots that don't work, because we know what it should be. Then we can move forward. So I like you guys having that, especially to delve into that.
Yeah. Because we can't, in the game, we can't change the size. Like, it goes out the size that it is. And
see, I was going to sort of ask, I mean, why? Well, I mean, did CBS? I mean, how much? Because obviously the JoJo films are owned by Paramount. CBS owns the brand of Star Trek. They own those things. How much then did you talk to Paramount, or did everything go through CBS? How much direction did you have on those JJ items to make sure, I guess, in a sense, how much you were not allowed to change them into the more Trekky classic, because that's their own thing. How much interference did you have on that?
Not really. I mean, I think, although Paramount owns the films, I think my understanding, my very vague and probably wrong understanding, is that CBS still handles licensing even for the new films in terms of like licensing products and things like that. I know that CBS worked on the new Star Trek VR game that's coming out, which will be very exciting. But that is also a JJ timeline. Excuse me, Kelvin timeline. I gotta get that.
I say JJ verse or JJ timeline all the time. So.
But yeah. So I think that it's still coming from CBS. We approached them, and they told us, like, hey, you guys can use this Kelvin timeline stuff now if you want. And we were like, okay, that's awesome. Of course we're gonna do that. And then we asked, well, can we get some reference material? Can you give us some numbers, some length and stuff? So they sent that over, but they trust us in terms of, we want to recreate what fans expect. So we weren't going to change the design of anything that, the way things look. The one change we did make, and we called it out in the game, is we greatly scaled up the Bird of Prey from Into Darkness, because you can actually, players can actually get that ship in the Kelvin Timeline lockbox. You can get the D4. We call it in the game, we call it the D4X, because we didn't want it to be a fighter. We wanted it to be like a frigate or an escort. A bird of prey kind of thing. So it's a lot bigger than it was in the movie. And we renamed it to D4X, kind of like how the Cavort and the Burrell, that whole discrepancy was handled. So we did something similar for the Kelvin Timeline Klingon ships as well. Yeah,
I mean, the design's not too bad if it was scaled up to actually be a bird of prey cruiser, as opposed to, and it's fine as a fighter, don't call it D4 then. They did it wrong in one way or the other, so I like the D4X, because I hate the idea that it goes from D4 to D5, and then D6, and then D6, then D7. It doesn't really link in the same way. Cool, that's awesome. So are they going to take your continuity now if they feature it again, do you think?
Who knows? I mean, I mean, typically they haven't really done that. I don't know how many things have kind of survived from or merged from like alternate canon into, or book canon, game canon stuff into the real canon.
Well, you guys are certainly respected enough. I mean, the amount of times we hear from people, "Oh, you missed out the Enterprise F," and it's like, well, it's not actually a canon. Oh, it's canon. Right. It's licensed, but it's not screened.
Right.
Because people do trust and respect what you guys do so much. From the people who play it a lot of the time, it is absolutely the next level. That is the future of the future.
we have some things going for us in terms of the game's been around for 7 years, so it has built a little cachet in the fan community. It's also a visual medium, so it's a little easier for them to work with something that we've already designed. Like it has a visual style, as opposed to some random character from a novel or something. So who knows? I'm not necessarily expecting anything I do to ever become canon. It would be awesome, but I'm not expecting it. It's not like Star Wars. I think Star Wars, that's happened a few times at least, where some comic book character or novel character made it. I mean, Thrawn and that one blue Twi'lek lady. Yeah. So we'll see.
Well, I have a question. I mean, you've got all the great storylines that you've had for 7 years, but now you've got Agents of Yesterday, which is TOS. Are you going to be doing more TOS stories kind of in that vein and continue that going forward, or is that just kind of a story arc that ends?
So it is a story arc, and it does have an ending, although we do have some other things coming out that kind of follow up and kind of bridge that story arc into the next thing that we're going to do. Well, we are gonna have more TOS themed environments and things like that, which will be coming up. That I think people will be really excited about.
I mean, we've talked about this before, but you've now proven what you can do. I haven't played it yet, but the reviews are amazing. So, disclaimer again. But from my point of view, the Stowe has got its own amazing years of great universe and built stories. I've thoroughly enjoyed the stories. The first 3 times I played it, and you kept changing it. The Enterprise C storyline that came in, I was like, wow, that's a really great mission. But if you really to hit me over the head and make me think, wow, would be just like I did for the Stowe TOS stuff, do a TNG arc where everything is very canonical, very small environments, very real, and then you do you've already done a Voyager one, but future Voyager, I think it's some possible. Do another Voyager one, do a DS9 one, do movies, and suddenly you can bring back. You've already had Michael Dorn, all these amazing people, but you did it so perfectly with TOS. Do each era and then do JJ at the end, and you can have all these actors come back and just a day in the life. So suddenly you've got an Enterprise D storyline with Troy's back and Riker's back. I mean, the coolness of walking through a proper TNG corridor, and you maybe got Picard for 3 lines because it's so expensive, maybe, you know what I mean? And just that would be such a natural progression, and suddenly you could have every other month just. Because now you've built up these subset timelines, these subset characters, because you have to make new character visions of yesterday. Suddenly, you've got this single 2-mission expansion, the TOS verse that you've done, and then suddenly you could pull fans from everything. It's a lot of work, obviously, but you've got the Stoweverse, and you've got everything else. And I would probably be addicted if you did that. I mean, every year new expansions. I mean, I would be golden.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we're always going to be adding things to the game that feel like Star Trek and resonate. I mean, like I said, we are a Star Trek theme park, and so every ride needs to call back to something that people are familiar with. So the next big thing we do, people will, there'll be people who will recognize where it's coming from, and they'll be really excited about it. So, I can't tell you what it is, but it's not. We're not. I think early on we tried to make our own Star Trek, which is fine, make our own, but we realized that people are coming to the game because it says Star Trek on the label, and they want to this is their chance to experience that stuff for themselves that they fell in love with, right? So we understand that, and so kind of everything we do is gonna kind of tie into some existing open thread, one way or the other.
Wait,
I know you said earlier that you're one of the lower men on the totem pole because you just do the ships kind of thing, which I totally disagree with. The ships are the most important thing in my opinion.
So do I.
So don't look at yourself like that. But how open are the higher ups to suggestions from you guys for say storylines or new ships? Can you suggest something and it actually becomes reality, or is it kind of just put on the back?
Yeah, it sort of depends on what the suggestion is. And it sort of depends on how that suggestion fits in with, when you're making a video. So first of all, an MMO is it's a service. A free-to-play MMO is also a retail business. We sell products, right? We sell ships, and so in terms of suggesting a ship to make, you have to suggest basically a product that they think is people are going to be interested in. So if you make a good suggestion, then they'll take your suggestion, and that, I think that has happened before. But it just it's just kind of like anything, if it's a good idea, they'll listen to you. It's Cryptic STO is a small team. It's pretty flat. There are 2 or 3 levels between me and the executive producer, and I have a good relationship with him, but that doesn't mean that every idea I have is good. So
well, I think we got to find a way to get Trekyards into Star Trek Online.
That would be cool.
We would voice our own parts. I'm sure Sammy will be down for doing that.
I'll even write some of my own dialogue.
Yeah, you guys would. So one of the issues though is that we are a SAG shop now, since we have all the actual actors from Star Trek that come on and play their roles, which means that anybody who comes in to voice for the game needs to be a member of SAG. I think we have a couple exemptions a year or something. That's all not really my wheelhouse. But so if you guys if you want to voice yourselves, you got to join SAG and become
Hey,
Screen Actors
if
Guild
that's
members.
the only thing standing my way, I mean,
Yeah, if you come up with a great storyline and need us, we'll definitely try.
Okay.
I mean, I know that the Stoked guys also got on. Obviously, that was half a decade ago.
That was
so
that
it's-
was before we were SAG, actually.
Yeah,
So
but it's not unprecedented to have a web show come in and do something.
No,
and on a station, there's just a casual guy with a little moustache and me with my generic white face. What have I got? Yeah. I want to go back to what you said about the storylines. I mean, about Discovery. I think what they're doing is just taking out everyman approach. They've got lower rank. It's just been a day in the life of rather than the heroes. For me, I feel like it's easy to write a Star Trek movie because you take a good story and then you put it in the Star Trek universe, and suddenly this character is a very aggressive kind. Let's make him a Tellarite. This character has problems with emotions. Let's make him a Vulcan. There are there's this world that's so rich that a good story you can put into that world and then just link it into canon. So for you to make stories, just think of, okay, well this one little, like I said, this little story thread, and then everything else can work on itself, because you don't need to take the very direct reference of, okay, this one episode, this whatever, but your the special we have with Harry Kim, where there is the old version of him, and it's that little, he floated away into space, and that's technically, I mean, even it's important for his character, sort of, it's a little part of Voyager, and they made a whole thing out of it, but everything else is not very much to do with that per se, but he happens to be, it's a small thread. But straight away, you feel like you're part of the Trek universe because you've taken it. There's so many, dozens and dozens. I mean, that's the great thing about you guys bringing in Delta Quadrant species. Because that'd be such a lost opportunity if you didn't have these people coming in. Because there's such a plethora of races and things. Well, it's really weird to fight a Herodian vessel randomly in the Alpha Quadrant. But I mean, hey, whatever. That's all good.
Well, and one of the interesting things we've been able to do is kind of combine different threads from different shows and tie them together. Like, with the Delta Quadrant species, we actually also bring in the aliens from Conspiracy and TNG. So that's a Voyager thing, and I guess if you guys haven't played through Delta Rising, that's a little bit of a spoiler. But they show up in the Delta Quadrant, and it's all part of this much bigger plot thread we have going on in the game, and it's really cool. Awesome. You get to fight them and fight their queen and all this cool stuff. So it's not just that we do typically theme content based on a specific series because we're picking up a specific thread, but that doesn't mean we can't also bring things in. Like Agents of Yesterday also deals with the Cold War from Enterprise. So we really try to tie in all of Star Trek together in these cool, interesting ways.
Yeah.
Very cool. You're the repair crew. You're the one that's fixing the timeline and all the inconsistencies and all the series.
Mean,
I love it.
I don't want to say that in a snarky way, but that is something that we try to do, is tie up all these loose threads and expand on things and because the Kelvin timeline episode that you go into, the Kelvin timeline, you're there because actually the sphere builders from Enterprise are messing up their time. So so we're tying in the Enterprise and the Temporal Cold War and the
as
Kelvin
you should,
stuff.
because it's everywhere. Yeah.
It's all Star Trek, right? So it's kind of cool to see all this stuff gel together in Star Trek Online.
I can't wait for Star Trek Online the movie. That's just all the missions put together into one long movie.
Oh my gosh, it'll be a long movie.
It kind of sounds like you guys are like the ultimate fanfic writers. You get to actually do it. I mean, Trekyards is a great medium for me. Stuart gets to put everything, use his detective brain, and then I get to make the visual story of you never seen the Akira from First Contact, the right model looking perfect at warp. I was the first person in the entire world to do that with that model. That's in the Enterprise stars from the show, the same scene file. So that's as canon as you can get, and I was the first person. So I'm able to create my own fan, but sort of legitimately real, and you're a licensed product, and you have all this support and backing and love. Honestly, you guys have so much love. And you keep building on that by doing the work that we want to see done. Beyond was a great example of the correct sort of balance between fan and story and good quality movie. And you guys have another great balance between story and its own universe and all those sorts of things. So, I mean, don't ever close.
Well, I have a vested interest in the game continuing to run, so I'm going to work my hardest to make sure we're still going for a while.
So when you have a stroller, I've got a new ship design. It's got a sphere in the middle, and I don't know.
How did you develop an accent as you got older? That's kind of a weird accent you had going on there.
It's just old man. It's just old man accent. I don't know.
You talk like this.
You've got no teeth, replaced with bionic. I don't know.
Well, I think that's probably it for this podcast. What do you think, Samuel? Anything else to add?
Just a blast to talk about things and just have a chat. It's awesome.
Absolutely.
It's just been fun hanging out. Thank you, Thomas, for joining us again. I'm sure we'll have many more episodes with you in the future. There's a lot of stuff you've contributed that we want to talk about. So
I can't wait to get into dig into some details on some of the ships I worked on. I'm really excited. Give
them the real canonish treatment. Go beyond just. So whenever I say beyond, I always think beyond the movies. But yeah, you're the sort of guy. Clearly, you're sort of the ship guy behind Stone. We're the ship guys behind ourselves, I guess. But you know what I mean. So this is gonna be a really fun time, I think. Formal episodes. Do we want to talk about that a tiny bit in terms of how we're going to approach the SCO ships? Because it's going to be a little different than I think some people might expect. In terms of we're not going to focus. Okay.
Spoilers. Well,
we've talked about this a little bit, Thomas. But yeah, give us you say what we've discussed.
Well, at least for the ships that I've worked on, I think we're going to want to. We'll mention maybe some of the in-game stats, but we're going to try to treat them as actual quote-unquote canon Star Trek ships. And so in Star Trek, the most forward weapons the ship can have is 5 weapons, but they can be any weapon because you can swap them out. But when we talk about them on Trekyards, we're going to say no, this ship has like 20 phaser banks and 8 photon launchers and things like that. So we're gonna come up with some like quote-unquote canon style stats for these ships, which will be a lot of fun to approach them that way.
And that was
kind of like
nice
doing the Trekyards originals with fan designs, but adding our little flair to it. So yeah, absolutely.
And it was so nice when we talked about this, Thomas, before, and you said, you liked how we do that. You that's how you liked seeing it. And so when you said, let's do that for my stuff, I was like, absolutely. And obviously we'll take into account what's in the game, but if we can give them this real feeling, and then you go play it, and then you suddenly think, because, I mean, it's great to have a Polaron beam, but Federation's never used Polaron beam, so it'd be, a lot of fun. And then to link into canon, I mean, just... Stuart, looks like we're going to get into the 2409 verse.
There we go. I just wrote in a fantastic script on one of your ships. I'm looking forward to filming it. But should we say what it is, or should we?
Nope. Let's you'll enjoy it when it comes out. Great teaser,
guys. I love giving away little spoilers. But
yes, I do. Anyway.
Anyways, I guess that's it for this podcast.
Yes.
Thanks again, Thomas, for joining us, and we look forward to speaking with you again. And thank you to all you guys as well. Please hit the like button and subscribe button and all that jazz. And we will see you next time.
Any last thoughts, Thomas? Any last things?
No, I can't wait to get into the nitty-gritty of the SCO ships. I'm really excited. Thanks again for having me on.
More than welcome.
Thank you for coming on. Awesome. All right, guys. I think that's it. Until the next time, I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Thomas
Marrone.
We'll see you later. Bye, everybody.